Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. Like I've been talking about lately, I'm now posting shorter videos on Apocalypse Now. I got one up with like a Don Lemons clip, a couple of clips from his thing, and I'm just gonna post like things from leftover stuff that I don't get around to and things like that, like 10-minute videos there, so I can keep that channel monetized just in case something happens over here. And I'll talk about that more as we go through these various things. But what I want to talk about is what's going to happen on New Year's. The New Year's Eve. I don't know when I've been doing the big reveal. Like I don't know. It's like kind of a goofy thing, which I'll talk about when when I name the theme for the year. But this one's a little bit, more. I don't want to say substantial. It's not going to be like something that's, I don't know what the right word for it is. Like sexy is the word people use for something like that. That something has a lot of clickbaity. It's not going to be clickbaity. It's not going to be something sensationalized. That's probably the word I'm looking for. But it's really telling, and I want to do it properly. And so this video is going up tomorrow. Today's Monday, December 29th. So the 30th is the day that I would make a video that would be up at 9 p.m., which is going to be this video. But I'm going to release a short video and something else on New Year's Eve. I'll just do the video. It's just standby alone video of the theme in the year, and it'll be like a 20-minute voiceover probably, with a link to some other thing that I'm going to release like later that day. So I'm going to release this video, and I'll probably keep this a little bit on the shorter side depending on what's happening tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And then sometime in the like mid-afternoon I'll release a shorter video. Usually that would be the day off, the day I would take a day off. And yeah, I think that's the way we'll do it, because it seems like it'll be New Year's Eve's a good day to do that. And then I'll either take a day off the next day, New Year's Day, or I don't know. I'll post early. I guess I'll take the next day off, New Year's Day, and then post again on Friday. So again, this is I'm just coming up with this now. So I wanted to talk about two movies I saw. I am the Sajmarg meditation that I do. The reason I do it is these things called sittings. There is group meditation called satsang, which is a Sanskrit word that means to come together, I think. I don't know, like that's the best definition. I could look up, there's an appendix book, I could look up the official definition. But it's where there would be a group of people meditating together, and there would be the master of the system, and there would be a preceptor. And the other things are individual sittings, and you would go to a preceptor's house usually, or it depends if you were at the ashram or something, and you would sit face to face, and there was this transmission, this energy. This is like not a guided meditation. Like Daji brought in the fraud guy, brought in this relaxation thing, which, some people find, it was never supposed to be a part of the thing, and I could see where maybe it would be a good thing if he wasn't a piece of shit. Maybe it would be, whatever. But you would sit face to face, and you're like 5 feet apart, and the preceptor transmits to the person. This transmission reads their spiritual condition, and then goes about cleaning their system and transmitting. And it was, these individual sittings particularly, I like the group meditation. And sometimes you go to a gathering where there'd be 10,000 people meditating, and the energy at the place was just amazing. Like it just, the condition, the energy, it's like going into like another realm. Like it's just, something beyond description. Like, I can remember it, but unless I experience it, it's like something you have to be there when you're experiencing it. It's not something I can recreate the feeling from memory, right? It's like, you have a great memory of a great day, and you think about that day, and maybe you feel like how you felt that day. But really, you can't do that with these things, what I'm talking about. But these individual sittings in the group meditation is why I do it, because it's a real thing. Like it could be an imaginary thing, it could be something that you don't feel, or it could be real and it's real. Like for people who experience it, it's like amazing, and it becomes something of you need it. Like people would say, "Oh, I need a sitting." Like they would just recognize they were upset, they were distorted or rattled. They were discombobulated. They would. And you would feel like you would need a sitting. That's what people would say and talk about. So when the Sajmark system got corrupted by this guy Daji and turned into Heartfulness, he created an app so you could get sittings. He created this like online app, a phone app, and there would be preceptors you would connect with. And my brother has been a preceptor. I was a preceptor for the time being, and he told me about what would happen on his end in the app, and there would be so many people waiting. And at first, the app was a good idea and it seemed to work. But over time, they made up imaginary people. Daji wasn't able to keep morale up. And, it's giving sittings is a good thing, but you're cleaning people's hearts, and there's, you're taking up your private time. Like you go to a preceptor's house, and they would oftentimes get off of work, and they would make themselves available from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And, in America, there weren't so many people practicing. But in India, for individual sittings, sometimes there was 10 people. And, there's hundreds of people. There's 200 people for one preceptor. In America, there's 5 people for one preceptor because there's not many people doing the practice. But in India, these people would give sittings all night. They would give sittings from they come home from work at 6, and then they would give sittings till 10 o'clock, every night. It's a volunteer position. And, giving the sittings, there's a lot of good experiences you have spiritually, but it's, people want to have their private time in these things, so it's whatever it is. And so there wasn't people who were willing to do the preceptors. There weren't enough of them willing to do these sittings. And so at some point they made up imaginary people. And I know they're imaginary people because Indian people in general are very big on social media. And I started to find these names of people I've never heard before. And there's, there's lots of preceptors I've never met, but there was, eventually you'd find somebody that you knew, right? Some person. And I wasn't feeling anything in the meditations, right? I wasn't feeling like I was getting a sitting, and I would take these names and I'd search them, and I couldn't find these people anywhere. They weren't on social media. They weren't anywhere. You couldn't find them. I did it for 12 people, and none of them had any kind of social media imprint. I mean, there was you'd figure you find other people with the same name, and occasionally I did find somebody with the same name, but none of those people were preceptors or connected to the heartfulness thing at all. So I realized they turned it into an imaginary thing, which meant there was no faith in the sittings anymore. The Daji, the piece of shit at the top, had lost his complete faith in the system, which was fucked. And I ended up, going on my own because I knew there was nothing there for me anymore. And then I started to do the sittings myself, because I used to be a preceptor. And I created the Gratefullness meditation channel, and I did these various playlists. And, one of the things was getting a lot of sittings at once, on consecutive days. And when I was going through, tough times in India, when I was going through the divorce, and, my family was in chaos, and I was just, going through it. Oftentimes you'll have these material events that are, you'll have these really bad times in your life where you're overwhelmed and you're stressed out every day, and you're, whatever it is. And in the Sajmark system, those things are maximized to do deep cleaning on these things called samskaras, which I've explained in other videos. Impressions from, this life and previous lives, things that are, blocking your connection to divinity within you. And so, I was in India, there's preceptors that lived next to me. There's this nice French woman who, it was funny because I saw her on Facebook. She had posted a picture, and she was really obese. She was a nice lady, but obese, overweight at least. And, she had been on Facebook for a while. I don't know. She'd never posted any pictures before. And she was unrecognizable. And I'm like, oh, she took Ozempic, right? But she was a nice person, and there's a couple other preceptors next to me. There's an apartment next to mine, and there was like several preceptors that I was getting sittings like every day for like long periods of time, like like 4 or 5 sittings a week, plus all these group meditations. And I went through this, like we call it, deep cleaning, right? And when I was made a preceptor, I got these intense deep cleaning sittings, 3 of them from Master Chargy, and then 5 of them from these senior preceptors who had been around a long time and were good at these things. And the deep cleaning that was there was phenomenal. It was like transformational and just transcendent, just beyond what I could describe here. And so I made a playlist where there was 7 sittings in 7 days, and there's another playlist where there's 3 sittings in one day, and these are intensive, deep cleaning type things. And so I was doing the 7 sittings in 7 days, and I've been like restless, and I mean, really, it's going through it. Oftentimes these sittings can like just bring up stuff, and I'm fine during the day, but at night I've been restless and things like this. And so it seems like an intense time. Like we're coming into the new year. I think this is going to be a really big new year. And I watched these 2 movies, one of which was called Bugonia, which I think it's like great. It's hard to say because it's so fucking weird. Those of you who have seen it, it's kind of truther. I mean, I would say it's a truther thing. There's truther narratives in there, and you kind of sense the way it's going to end, but they still make it good. Like the ending, and or at least you kind of get it. It doesn't follow the normal predictive type of pathways for movies. It's just the acting, the whole thing. It's just, I think it's like a masterpiece. I'm going to watch it again with my wife. I have to see it a second time. I think it's like a better version of They Live. Like it's whatever. It's there for people to see. And I don't want to spoil alert the thing because it's to me it's worth like going through the very intense, kind of gross at times and whatever. But it's it's unique. And then there's a movie called One Battle After Another, which is another weird fucking movie. Like it's fucking weird. There's some really great funny parts. Leonardo DiCaprio is like a great actor, and there's really good actor and production values in that. Not as like it's not really a truther type thing. But what I've noticed is that there are more and more movies and TV shows. There's a lot of just shit out there for dumb fucks. There's like just the stuff that's there for stupid people, where you can tell when something's for stupid people, the amount of times they have to explain easily understandable remedial plot lines and storylines. These are just templates. There's so many like movies and TV shows that are, you've seen hundreds of the same movie or TV show, like even thousands. Like there's just, there's like the Romeo and Juliet plot line, and there's, the plot line in which my wife and I watched a really bad like Hallmark movie. It was a Lifetime movie, and I recorded it because it was called Pickleball Christmas. And, it's low budget, people that you've never seen before, actors and actors, like, and it's a romantic comedy, and we're sitting there and we were making fun of it and watching it because it was like, that's some of our TV watching where it's interactive, where we can watch something bad and make jokes about it. And, it followed this story arc where the guy comes in, the tennis player, and he meets the pickleball woman, and he's hostile. Like he's just, unnecessarily rude to her in some way. Like he's mad, and he's, and you're like, well, these two will never get together. But then, he sees her in a different light, and he warms up to her, and then they get together. And then there's a misunderstanding. And she turns on him, and then the misunderstanding is cleared up, and they get together, and they have a pickleball Christmas. And you have these like things like that, right? Movies that are just, they follow this template, like the two. Oftentimes it's I made fun of that movie, whatever it is. It stars that girl who's like in everything now. But I watched the trailer, and you guys would know the movie and the girl. It was probably a year or two ago. I made fun of the trailer. Back when I do more trailer stuff until they were so copyrighted my things. And I'm like, well, fuck you guys then. It's wasting my time. But it's these two people who hate each other, but somehow they find love. Through the process of the whatever. And so it's like these things you've seen over and over and over again. It's just different variations of the same movie. Like my wife and I watched Elf, and that's a unique movie. Like Elf is and there's no fat on that movie. It's like an hour and a half. They get it done. There's not any of these, just wasted, whatever it is, right? Just filler. Like there's just not this filler, which you see now with a lot of TV shows and movies. We just completed watching the great Apple TV show Pluribus, and we had seen some other stuff that was kind of good. That was, excellently done. And there's a show called Lowdown, which was pretty good. There was some plot holes in it. The guy, plays a smart writer and somebody who's, intelligent, but just does stupid shit, right? But like with these other shows, not so much that one, but certainly that one a little bit. You have a lot of shows that are not only intelligent, they're completely unique. They're like something you've never seen before. Back when they released that movie Memento, where the guy had lost his long-term memory, and they made the movie in reverse order in terms of time. They started in the future, and they went back to the past because, the guy didn't remember anything, right? So, it was unique, like something that was like, wow, this is a fucking masterpiece, right? And we see things now. It seemed like this movie, Begonia, was talking about like a truthful narrative. Something that is similar to my understanding about what's happened here on planet Earth. It's done in a sort of comedic, fictitious way, but it seems like there was a couple of information drops where they're just telling you what's happened, what's going on, like a They Lived, but much more sophisticated. And so, there seems to be like there's a lot of slop out there, as they're calling it, like AI slop. But then there's some real, like, truthful shit out there, like real, where they're, anyways. So I just wanted to say that. It's late, I gotta eat breakfast. So let's wrap this up, and I'll go eat breakfast, and I'll come back and make some clips here. So weirdly enough, I was talking about this movie. I couldn't remember the name of it. I did the trailer, and whatever, and the voiceover. And here it is. These were the two actors in it, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell has been in a number of pretty good things. He was in that, Chad Powers is a pretty funny show. My wife and I enjoyed that, where he pretends to be a quarterback. A little bit goofy, but it's a sitcom. And then this came up, and I was scrolling through Facebook to find this thing I'm going to show you next. I forgot to click on it, and it disappeared. But let's show you that. It has to do with Israel. So let me just expand on what I was saying there. The wind is raging. We had just a sidebar. It was like 60 degrees yesterday. It had been mortally warm. We were in the high 50s and 60s. And then there was tornado warnings last night, and the wind was like kicking. It was crazy. The temperature dropped. There was some rain for a bit, and then the wind just was howling all night. It's howling today. The chickens are all bundled up by the side of the house. We've opened up the old barn. But there was like a 30-degree temperature drop, like just, and all this stuff. But anyways, I was saying about this movie, I described a trailer, and it could have been any number of movies. I vaguely described the actors, and not enough that most people would not figure it out, only because it's like the most recent one of these stereotypical movies. And then I go back to Facebook, and they have this thing where it's weird that they would be able to garner that from, like, why would they? I mean, this is not. I don't see these actors posted anywhere, I mean, I guess this Sydney Sweeney's all over the place, but in terms of like something on Facebook, like why is this here? Like, why, in a movie that I could barely, describe, right? And there's in a movie I didn't even see, right? Because I just was reacting to the trailer and how it was so obvious the storylines and plot lines in the movie. But anyways, the thing that I was going to show you, I meant to click on the website, I didn't, but here's the ad on Facebook. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. World Jewish Congress. This is more than disturbing. Jews are being firebombed and shot dead in the streets of America. According to the FBI, anti-Semitic hate crimes in the United States have reached the highest level ever recorded. No Jews should ever face violence or harassment because they are leading open, proud Jewish lives. We are looking for more than 328 responses to our urgent flash poll before midnight tonight. Will you stand against Jew hate? Will you stand against Jew hate? Yes. The golden sunlight, and no. The apocalypse, the end of the world, oblivion, right? Like, those are your choices. There's your choice right there. Everyone's got to make it right now. You got to choose between sunlight and certain death, the destruction of the world. So that's they're really going hard. They're really leaning into this pretty hard, and it's backfiring, like I talked about yesterday. And let's go to this MSNBC report here. Okay, so here it is, right, of the World Jewish Congress. It was a difficult and challenging year for Jews, but as it comes to an end, we have an exclusive opportunity to come together to shape a better and more just world in 2026. This is because all end year gifts will be triple matched until midnight. Triple matched by who? Like, who's out there who has enough money to triple match everything that people are sending? They want donations of 1,500, 250, 57.86 for some reason, and these other things. And so the first thing is, lots of people are suffering from hatred and prejudice. And it isn't my responsibility to pay for that, especially when our tax dollars are going to, a lot of it goes to Israel, like some proportion of it that most of us at this point don't want, especially after the genocide and all these other things. But just in general, right? Like, there's hatred and problems here in the U.S. and things. We can't handle our own business. We have our own financial issues. But that we're supposed to fund this thing. They have somebody who's rich enough to triple match all these things, right? If you donate something, let's say they get $5 million in donations, there's someone who's going to pay $15 million. They can write a check, and that's silly. Why don't they just pay the $15 million? Why don't they give the maximum? Because they care about this, right? But the other thing is, you're just throwing away money if these are the kind of ads you're running. Like, this isn't working. Like, yeah, you might get some dumb fucks in here, but shit's turned on you, and like, unless there's some apology and some personal responsibility or collective responsibility about what you did in Palestine, what you did in Gaza Strip and some of these other things, and some of the other historical things, because all this stuff's coming out. There is a deluge of information out there that isn't hating Jews. It's, the parasitic relationship with Israel. And you just be throwing your money away by giving money to these kind of ad campaigns that are doomed to fail. Like, this isn't, you're not winning people over with these fucking ad campaigns. You're not winning people over with Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer. Like, you got, like, what's your strategy here? Like, is it just to piss people off and make people hate you? Because, like, what's what you're doing with these ad campaigns and all this other stuff? Benjamin Netanyahu, like, get some likable fucking people out there who can inspire some, some connection, and not just this dickish, shit that you're doing. Like, you can run a gazillion ads. That's not going to change people. People have a negative attitude, and, it's like being spammed now. You're spamming on top of it. Like it's just it seems like you're intentionally trying to create hate towards Jewish people. Like you're doing the opposite of what you're saying that your goals are here. Like that's what it seems like because none of these strategies are going to give. They're going to, you can always judge somebody's. If you have to listen to somebody's words or actions, you judge their actions, right? Like words, everybody fucking says words, like fucking words they don't mean, or words they wish they meant, or whatever, but they don't really, they don't live up to their words. Like words are worthless. Words are practically worthless. It's the actions that, speak louder than words. I mean, it's a fucking saying. And so, based on your actions, I would say you're not trying to create sympathy and empathy and support for Jewish people. That you're trying to piss people off and make them hate Jewish people. Like, so this is Hamas running this thing. Like, who's in charge of these ad campaigns? Spamming people on Facebook now, and people who are already pissed off. It just makes them more pissed off, right? So to go with that, okay, so that thing came around on Facebook again. That one that has this official poll for the World Jewish Congress American section. According to the FBI, anti-Semitic hate crimes in the United States have reached the highest level ever recorded. We must stand together to protect and defend our Jewish communities from violence, vandalism, and intimidation. We need more than 328 more responses to our urgent flash poll before midnight. Please confirm your response now. Will you stand up against Jew hatred? And then you hit yes or no, and then you hit next. And I think they then offer, then you have to pay some money. Because we already saw that their website had quite a number of options for donations. But, I mean, I guess if you were Jewish, maybe you could do this. But why should everyone else be responsible? And I'm not saying people shouldn't stand up to whatever it is. Shouldn't help people, but this is much more complicated than that, right? There's 600,000 dead Palestinians in Gaza. This isn't about, this is about a whole different level of whatever it is, right? And so, and it's kind of fucked, just in general. It's not working. Like, it's just, I mean, the fact that they included the FBI, how many people have a positive opinion about the FBI or trust them? Especially the people that they're looking for to help out. But anyways, here's this. Okay, saw a little bit of this in passing yesterday on the news, and I didn't understand what it was. Because, well, let's just watch here.
Meanwhile, a federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration from detaining and deporting a British-born researcher whose work focuses on combating online hate and disinformation.
Judge blocks detention of anti-disinformation activists. And I'm like, when I first saw this, I'm like, what? And the guy was being interviewed, and like I didn't understand where this was, but now it makes total sense. I'm like, oh, this must be about he's pro-Israel, right? And so, and when I first saw it, I'm like, if Trump would be doing this to somebody who was like some way against things that Trump's against, and Trump's for Israel, so it didn't make sense in passing, right?
The Trump administration has accused Imran Ahmed of trying to censor American viewpoints with which he doesn't agree. Ahmed is a lawful permanent U.S. resident. He's the CEO of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a research organization dedicated to prevent...
Okay, he's the CEO of an organization that doesn't produce any products. So where does it get its money from? Like a foreign government, right? And, pro-Israeli people that supported Charlie Kirk. Like, this is not a real organization. Like, this isn't like he has a business. Don't call him a CEO. Call him a grifter, a disinformation agent that's paid for by a foreign lobbyist, people who are supporting a foreign lobbying group. And, why in the world would Trump go after this guy? Right? Like, why would he go after this guy when he's the greatest friend Israel's ever had? They're not going after this fucking guy. They're making him pop here. They're making him look like a victim, and they're running news media and things. And, like it's fucking, I mean, he's the greatest friend Israel's ever had.
Online harm to children and the spread of anti-Semitism on social media. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated on social media that Ahmed and four other Europeans named by the State Department were barred from traveling to the U.S. because Rubio claimed they, quote, have led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to censor, demonetize, and suppress American viewpoints they oppose. Now, later today, there will be a call with the judge to determine the next steps in the case.
Okay, so, we have suffered this. Like, I don't want to hear anything from anybody else about censorship for all of us in the truth community. I mean, they've warped the truth community. They've tainted it. They've invaded it. They've used it. But all these things. But all of us who suffered real discrimination, real, for our beliefs. I mean, where we couldn't say things we believed, and we couldn't talk about COVID at all. We couldn't say anything about the vaccine or COVID or any of the things that we did that weren't official fucking bullshit allopathic medical protocols. And even then, you weren't supposed to talk about that, even the official stuff. I mean, you could, make a pro-vaccine video, but you would get, a fucking community guideline strike on YouTube for just talking about these things. And so many different things. We couldn't voice our opinions. We were being censored by the Biden administration and, the powers that be, right? And, we still are all being targeted. We're all being, not deplatformed, but shadow banned. And I mean, my channel I was getting 100 new subscribers a day, and I was getting tens, hundreds of thousands of views on some of my videos, right? And of course, my videos have gotten, better and less understandable to dumb fucks. My position has changed, and I'm, sort of an edgy, fringe level, outside the normal truth or narrative stuff. But, aside from that, my viewers don't get notified and my videos don't get recommended. There's a little bit of a switch, a little bit open, a crack opened up where the Charlie Kirk thing, for whatever reason, YouTube started to, promote my channel a little bit more and start notifying some people that hadn't been notified in years for some, whatever reason, their algorithms or their AI learning decided to do that. But all of us who suffered that, and I don't look at it as being a victim or any of these things, I don't want to hear about anybody fucking else, right? I don't want to hear about how, that Jewish people don't have enough propaganda out there. Like, there's 2 or 3 Holocaust movies every fucking year that nobody watches, right? Like Hollywood, they're not underrepresented in Hollywood. They're not underrepresented in the entertainment world or any of these other positions, business, finance. People get access to this information about Israel and these other, whatever it is. It's propagandized. They own platforms, media outlets. They have control over these things. And so, like, this guy is somehow being prejudiced against, like this MSNBC shills here. Like, that's what you want to say. Like, it's the worst thing is when you have people who are just about to buy TikTok or have already bought in TikTok. I don't know where that stands. Where Netanyahu said, yeah, we need some Jewish billionaires to buy TikTok so we can censor TikTok. He just comes out and fucking says that, finally. And it was a good thing. He did a good thing there. It was like a moment of truth. While he's talking to influencers, he's paying for them to betray their own audience and take shekels and tell them bullshit, narratives based on getting paid, right? That's it's your audience that you're betraying, right? You have an audience of people, and they expect you to be, honest and straightforward with them. And if you're getting shackled up by some foreign lobbying group and you're talking to them about these things, which is backfired. It's all fucking backfire. It's not working. You can dump fucking $1 trillion into this thing. It isn't going to change the America. It's like America's gone south on Israel. And you're not going to get it back by fucking buying it and running bullshit pieces like this of Morning Joe. But it isn't because you're underrepresented and, that you somehow are being victimized. It's you control these things, right? You control, like, Facebook and fucking, in terms of just, the people who run it, they're an ethnic heritage, and then all these other platforms. He was talking about, he was bragging about how Elon Musk would cooperate with them. Netanyahu was. Remember that whole thing he did with those young people right after the Charlie Kirk thing? he held an event with American young influencers, and they were all talking about how they could, combat this anti-Semitism, and one way is don't commit a fucking genocide, and then tell everyone that these people deserve what they got, right? That you totally, it's in your right to murder 300,000 babies or kids. I mean, it's just fucked.
Imran Ahmed joins us now. Thank you so much for being here. We just heard from Jacob Sobroff in that report how immigration and deportation has in many ways defined this year in the United States. Your case a little different than some of what we've seen in terms of masked ICE agents and the like, but no less upsetting and troubling to many.
No, not to the majority of people. Get this motherfucker out of here. He's trying to censor Americans. I don't know why Trump was doing this other than to promote him. Like he's not going to get deported.
To us, if you will, just about first why you think you and a couple of your others have been singled out.
Well, I mean, I watch those images and I think to myself, that's not necessarily me. I mean, I've dedicated my life to trying to stop the spread of anti-Semitism online. And trying to protect kids online. We do important research that's taken seriously by governments, like foreign governments, but domestic governments too.
Yeah, because you're paying them. Like, you mean politicians that you've bought and paid for? Because he's not talking about anti-Semitism. He's talking about Israel getting to go and take the Gaza Strip and say, fuck you to the world, that we get to do this. And, this being an outrage, a genocide and ethnic cleansing, and that they can just fucking do this for bullshit reasons, and that anybody who says anything about it is anti-Semitic, right? Anybody who says, hey, this is wrong, you're anti-Semitic, you must hate Jews, like, what are you talking about, right? Like, Jewish people are saying shit. Like, some of the biggest voices on this thing are Jewish people, right? There's, like, people in Israel who aren't, like, they're upset about the way this thing is going down. And and are they anti-Semitic? They hate themselves? Like, what are you fucking talking about, right? And so, like, this is the part that, like, you people are not that fucking stupid. I mean, people are dumb, and I talk about dumb fucks all the time. But when people understand something, and then you try to gaslight them on it, you can't do it. Like, people have, like, there's a consciousness shift in America, and there's nothing you can do to stop it by heavy-handed tactics and censorship and other things.
Work with states. When I first moved to America, I was given a alien of extraordinary ability, an O1 visa, by the Trump administration. I worked with the Trump administration on anti-Semitism. And then you find yourself in this extraordinary position where just before Christmas, and I'm married to an American citizen from Oklahoma. I have a
Oklahoma
child, an American child, being told that I'm being deported.
Okay, so you're not, like, again, this fucking hoity-toity British fuck, right, with his hoity-toity British accent. You're on fucking Morning Joe, and he was on another show yesterday. He's making the rounds. Like, these immigrants, some of them who are, working, they have jobs in America, they're contributing. I'm not pro-immigration or anti-immigration, I'm not any of these things. But like these people who are being grabbed off the streets and got dudes with masks and sent into jail, this guy gets to make media rounds. Like, how are you being deported? Why aren't you in a fucking holding cell right now? Why are you able to speak to the media? Like, all these people, all the Trump people that Trump is fucking, guys are showing up with fucking masks and grabbing women off the streets and, and all the stuff they're doing to Muslims and people who are, any of them who protest taking their visas and kicking them out of fucking Harvard or whatever, all the bullshit. And, those people, for the most part, get no media love, no anything, unless it's some sort of stage thing. And this guy's coming in his suit, married to some Oklahoma woman, fucking talking shit on Morning Joe, right? I like all, having tea time. Like, fucking Trump hasn't deported you, bro. You ain't getting fucking deported. It's a fucking joke.
Talk to us about where this case stands. How confident are you and your legal team in prevailing? But also, talk to us about the legal matters, to be sure. But also,
a judge stopped this thing, and this guy's out.
Personal toll this is taking on you.
This is a multimillionaire backed by all this money and whatever he has. I mean, this is a Charlie Kirk type shackled up person.
family.
I mean, of course, there's a personal toll, and I regret any minute that I don't spend with my daughter and my wife. But this mission has pitted us against, and I think this cuts to the heart of this, why this is happening. It's pitted us against tech executives many times. When you try and hold accountable some of the wealthiest, and I think the most arrogant and indifferent people in this country, people who are not used to accountability and absolutely do.
Oh, okay. Oh my God. Right. They have censored pretty much everybody, and they were pressured by the Biden administration. He was going to pull their, not Joe Biden, his cronies. He was going to pull their, their whatever this thing that they have. It's like one of these provisions where they weren't being held legally responsible for shit people post on their sites, because if they were, they would be sued out of existence, and they couldn't run their platform. So Biden was threatening just basically making them have it to shut down, and which is a fucked up thing. And that was, the platforms themselves are privately owned, and they can choose to censor people whatever way they choose, right? But for the most part, they don't want to censor anybody. They want people just to be able to talk shit online, because it doesn't matter. Fucking none of the shit matters. Nothing anybody says does anything. Never translates into actions unless it's some false flag bullshit, right? People are pacified fucking couch potatoes. I mean, couch potatoes, it must be like a new term, if you guys know it. Like, what's the new term for somebody who's a couch potato but now on the internet? Like, couch potato used to mean, some woman eating fucking bonbons or some fat fuck, in his basement watching football games and, eating various forms of processed fat and fucking drinking cheap beers and, this kind of thing. But like, whatever the internet version of that is, right? The people are just fucking zombified, and there's no changing anything. And like, this is all silly. Like, this doesn't mean anything. I mean, there might be some change in the fact that Americans don't want to support Israel, but they're still going to do it. Like, tell me a scenario where Israel doesn't get their money, doesn't get their money so they can shekel people up, doesn't get their billions from America and all the weapons. Tell me a scenario where that happens. Like, show me a future where that exists. Like, that's going to go on forever. People are just not going to like it. So that's, and they're not going to like, Israel and whatever that means and this kind of thing. And whatever that translates into some minor, altercations or whatever, hostilities. It isn't really anything. Nothing happens. Nothing ever fucking happens. Until, like, something really big happens, it's not going to come from, people. It's going to come from the reaction, the spiritual reaction to a demonic system. Like, there's going to be some consequences, and it's not going to come from people doing it to themselves. It's not going to come from people generated. It's going to be coming from a response to bad living. And, like, people have consequences that are divinely orchestrated. When you make a mistake and the divinity within you is wanting you to turn around and, stop doing what you're doing, going away from your spiritual path, your spiritual essence, going away from your soul's path. And you start getting consequences for fucking mistakes. And eventually that collectively happens, and then all of a sudden, boom, the system goes down or whatever, things are going to start to happen, inevitably and, sooner than later. And so that's that's where the accountability is coming in, but not from the rest of this stuff. So, it's just silly. Like, this whole fucking thing is silly. This guy sitting up there, Morning Joe, with a suit and a tie, and talking about how he's not with his family. He's not locked up, and Trump isn't really doing this, right? This is just a publicity stunt for a guy who's trying to censor all of us who have been censored so many different ways, and for not being able to speak our truth in America. And this fucking guy's being imported from Britain with Israeli pro-Israel money to take away our ability to express ourselves. And, and he's going on Morning Joe that nobody fucking watches. To people who are, the liberal people are just over this whole thing. Even, now that the conservatives are getting on board this thing with Israel. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of bullshit posts. Not only now this stuff with pro-Israel stuff, but I'm getting stuff with Candace Owens reveals DNA evidence that Charlie Kirk's kids were not his, or things like it. I'm not sure if this was one of those posts. But here they go. They have her on the roof with the shooter. They have her on with the orange fucking thing in cuffs. They have some, artsy kind of, thing of Candace Owens with a compassionate look. And then they have her all bedazzled. There's a good comedic bit. I'm not going to show you to it, but one of my friends sent it on Instagram or whatever the people are that follow. I don't know what they're called, It's friends on Facebook, so I don't know what people are called on Instagram. But one of the people on Instagram sent me a message, and that was kind of funny. This comedian, he's talking about how, he's taking some license with the, some of the facts, but how she went for a job interview with him, and then 4 years later, she's running the business, right? Like she originally met him in a job interview, and it talked about some of the other things we know, how she was kicked out of Romania and some of these other things. But he was saying, she immediately goes on his podcast, and he said, this comedian said to his wife, if I die, at least wait a couple of months before you go on my podcast, and even go on a podcast, and even longer if it's my podcast, right? Like within 2 days, she was on his podcast, claiming her territory, doing territorial pissings, right? And so, but as much as things have turned on Israel, they've turned on her. Like people don't like Erica J. Kirk, and they don't like this stuff here. And they don't like her being bedazzled, and she don't like her personality. And nobody likes those fucking children of the corn eyes.
With 2025 almost in the books, it's time to take stock of the very tumultuous first year of President Trump's second term and what it means for 2026 and beyond. Trump has transformed the country in countless, often unprecedented ways.
The president ways.
Boundaries, and at times ignoring the limits of the law.
Hey, Manu, look, 2025 was not exactly the best year for the President of the United States. He started off in pretty gosh darn good territory, right? Trump's net approval rating in January, he was 6 points above water, pretty much above where he was during his entire first term in office. But look what happens come December, 12 points underwater, way down there.
Way down. It's a 18-point swing.
That is an 18-point decline during the course of the year.
I called it 18 points, spoiler alert.
What has driven Donald Trump's decline in his net approval rating? Well, it's independence. That is the name of the game, baby.
Name of the game, baby.
In January, Donald Trump's net approval rating among independents was about even, -1 point. Not too hot to trot, but not too bad either.
Not too hot to trot. This guy's talking. He's bringing out all the great hits.
Now, we're talking about 43 points underwater come December. That is a decline of 42 points on his net approval rating. Donald Trump is hanging out with Jacques Cousteau. That is how far underwater Donald Trump is with independents.
He's just like incredibly funny, this guy. Harry Enton.
At this point. Now, what issues are driving this decline in Trump's approval?
I bet it's going to be the economy.
Rating, his net approval rating. Well, let's look at two of the key issues, right? The economy, the reason that Donald Trump was elected to a second term. Back in January, he was in pretty good shape at +9 points on the net approval rating. But look, come December.
No way, 6%. And also immigration. Anything else you got?
But Barack Obama right nearby at 11 points underwater. George W. Bush also right nearby at 10 points underwater. So you see this? Hey, Trump isn't doing so bad. But here's the key nugget to keep in mind.
Give us the nugget.
Their parties, Barack Obama's and George W. Bush's, both suffered major losses come the midterm elections in their second term. Why? Because, take a look here. Okay, term 2, negative net approval ratings at this point. Did they go positive by the midterm elections? In Barack Obama's case, no, it didn't happen. His party lost control of the Senate, suffered major losses in the U.S. House of Representatives. George W. Bush didn't go positive either by the midterm elections. His party lost control of the House and the Senate. And then, of course, all the way back in 1973, going into 74, Richard Nixon's net approval rating was negative. He was actually forced from office before those midterm elections, and then his party suffered major losses in Congress. We'll have to wait and see if the same thing happens to Donald Trump. He gets a question mark at this point, but based upon history, it doesn't look...
Yeah, he's not going to go positive. We know here he is here. Here he is on Morning Joe.
This is fake narrative that the Democrats talk about, affordability. They just say the word. It doesn't mean anything to anybody.
Not like your words mean things, and theirs don't.
The word affordability. I inherited a mess. I inherited a total mess. It's a con job. I think affordability is the greatest con job. They look at you and they say, affordability. They don't say anything else. Everyone
Look at
says,
Ted Cruz shaking his head. Yeah, you're making so much sense right now.
oh, the word affordability is a con job by the Democrats.
Exactly. It shouldn't even exist, affordability. Nothing should be affordable. That's bullshit. It's a fucking con job. Nothing's affordable and never will be affordable again. Fuck that. Con job.
That was President Trump multiple times earlier this month, slamming the focus on affordability ahead of next year's midterm elections. But despite the president's insistence, the issue isn't real. The White House is reportedly scrambling to find ways to neutralize it. Joining us now, staff writer for The Atlantic.
All right. So we don't need to see this. You know, I think people are kind of getting the idea we're fucked. I think people are starting coming around to realizing we're fucked. You know, so I just learned about this. Silver prices are skyrocketing. And I'm not totally sure on what's going on with it, but it is silver is used in so many of these technological things. Breaking Chinese move on silver could trigger a global trade war. China just broke the bank. Cartel's grip of silver is a reset, entering its finale. Silver crashes to 75, but China is paying 89. Look at this dude. Breaking silver, $90 in silver in China shops. And so here we go with Gemini. I asked the same crisis. Silver crisis in China. As of late December 2025, the global silver market has experienced what many analysts are calling a silver squeeze or a silver crisis, with China at the absolute center of the storm. Silver prices have reached historic, unprecedented high, surged from roughly $29 an ounce at the start of the year to $80 per ounce this week. The silver squeeze, key drivers, China's export, the current crisis is fueled by a combination of extreme industrial demand and a sudden shift to Chinese trade policy, Chinese export restrictions. In a move that sent a shockwaves through the market, China announced it would require government licenses for all silver exports starting in January 1st, 2026. This is effectively a move to keep domestic silver within China to support its own high-tech and solar sectors. Inventory collapse. Silver inventories in the Shanghai Futures Exchange have plunged into the lowest levels since 2016, an 86% drop. The solar deficit. Silver is a critical component in photovoltaic solar cells, which global solar capacity continuing to grow. The industry is consuming massive amount of metal. Analysts estimate the market is now at fifth consecutive year of structural deficit. The paper versus physical divergence. People buy paper silver and real silver. Elon Musk's warning recently. Elon Musk posted on X, "This is not good," in response to China's export limits. He's highlighted that silver is essential industrial mineral for electric vehicles and renewable energy, and these shortages could significantly increase manufacturing costs. This is like a possible economic collapse type of thing, that China would end up in the driver's seat. It seems like Trump is now considering, again, rumors that just people are telling him, we got to stop our export of silver. And so, gold prices are astronomical. And also, on top of this, it's about inflation. It means the dollar's deflated. And, I was watching that show Gold Rush. I watch that occasionally. I tape it. And I'll watch little bits of it, If my wife dozes off, I turn on Gold Rush or a basketball game or something. And it was from last summer, and gold had gone up to, triple its, whatever it was, to record high prices. And the year before, it had gone up record high prices, and now it's up over like $4,000, dollars an ounce. It fluctuates, but that means, it doesn't mean silver and gold are going up. It means the dollar is being deflated. The dollar's worth shit, right? And so, they're doing everything they can to keep affordability, right, what Trump is saying. But they can't do that because of the massive amount of bailouts post-COVID and the collapse of and closing down the economy, which they tricked Trump into doing because he's a dumb fuck. And they worked him on that thing. And now, America's fucked. Like, it's just, there's no way back because the numbers have always been like fucked numbers. You'll never get out of debt numbers, like you're screwed numbers. People realize, you got to win the lottery to get out of fucking debt. Like, people have these, massive amounts of economic, pressure and strife, where they know that there's no way up for them. And there's no job, there's no solution to your economic situation other than bankruptcy. And Trump's gone bankrupt a number of times. People have faced these kind of things. And America is in that situation. America as a country, and then as the dollar is the world reserve currency, and a global economic crisis and depression and these things. It's just around the corner, and there's going to be any number of catalysts. And right now, silver, the price of silver has joined the fray. Things are going to go south quickly because they're going south quickly, right? So there's that. Okay, so there is footage from December 5th, a Coast Guard ship that came from behind and hit an encircled boat as per the video. This is a chopper and a Coast Guard boat working in conjunction to get this drug boat here, right? It's a little drug tugboat over here. Again, it's a long way to go from Venezuela to America, right? And so they come in here, and there's the alleged drugs. But they have a few motors here, whatever it is, 3 motors. I don't know how much fuel they have. Boats go very slow, and they're, here there's the Coast Guard coming in and doing that. So that shows you they don't have to bomb them, right? They don't have to just kill random people. They can go out and actually grab the drugs, make sure it's drugs on board and all the rest of that. They could also arrest the people and detain them and figure out where this is coming from and, other valuable information. So the missile strikes aren't necessary, right? If it's very easy, it's like in the desert. I mean, it's easy to find boats and things like this. It's not these are big oceans, but still, this isn't something where, especially as they get close to the coast, this is something that can be spotted now with satellite footage and all the rest of it. So if they can track a boat leaving Venezuela, they can certainly keep an eye on that boat throughout the, its pathway and its journey and trajectory, and find these boats without having just to blow them up near Venezuela. There's also this moving closer to war with Venezuela. I didn't fact check this, so I have no idea if this is true or not.
Today, something major happened, and almost nobody is talking about it. After the U.S. seized Venezuelan oil tankers and publicly said not a single tanker would be allowed to leave Venezuela, Venezuela responded by doing the unthinkable. They sent their navy. Venezuelan warships escorted their oil tankers straight out to sea, fully protected, daring the U.S. Navy to stop them. And here's the key part. The U.S. didn't. Despite having warships positioned off Venezuela's coast, the U.S. Navy watched the tankers sail past and let them go. Later, the U.S. admitted they were considering options, but chose not to act. Venezuela then made their message crystal clear, saying their tankers will sail with full naval security to defend their right to free navigation. This is a direct challenge because if the U.S. wants to stop Venezuelan oil now, it wouldn't just be sanctions. It would mean confronting the Venezuelan Navy. And that's not a blockade. That's the edge of real conflict. Whether you agree or not, this sends a powerful signal. Venezuela didn't back down, and the U.S. didn't follow through.
Okay, well, World War III is coming. I don't know if this is true, but sounds like it is. It sounds about right. We're on the cusp of these things, which is going to lead into my whole thing about what the year of 2026 is going to be. Okay. So this is from 17 hours ago. This all happened Monday. They hadn't posted for a while before that. I guess they posted over the weekend. A little bit about AMFest and things like this. Why are judges letting violent criminals back on the streets to hurt, I guess, Americans? 4,000 views. This is TPUSGay and the twink and the twinks. A status update on how Generation Z is feeling about Trump 2.0. 6.4 thousand views. That views should tell you everything you need to know. Exposing the Minnesota social welfare fraud ring. 5,000 views. Breaking down J.D. Vance's powerful message at AmFest, only 9,000 views. But they're reposting this thing, Charlie Kirk's most viewed video ever, which, this girl flashing her nipple. They're reposting that. They just reposted that like 2 months ago. Like, that's how desperate they are for views. It's only got 13,000 views. Okay, everyone hates us. Everyone's turned against Israel. Nobody likes Erica. They think she's weird. Doesn't have any fans. They think we're twinks. What can we do to turn this thing around? We're completely upside down. I don't know. Remember that time that girl tried to show Charlie her nips? Remember that time that the girl flashed her nips to Charlie? Let's roll that out every 3 months. Let's wear that thing out. See if we get right. So here we have the twinks, right? So it's freezing out. I went to Whole Foods, and there's a dude that works there that kind of seems pretty gay, and he's angry twink Blake Deff's doppelganger. I mean, looks identical except he's taller. And I'm like, hey, there's angry twink's doppelganger. Remembering Charlie Kirk at AmFest 2025 for crapping the incredible weekend. I don't remember thinking it was about remembering Charlie Kirk, what I saw. Now, they all would use his name to gain, for their own posturing. But it didn't seem like they were doing any kind of remembering. But here.
But he had an opinion. I'm all here for it. And, more than any other AmFest in the history of Turning Point, this was, we had the eyes of the world, the nation certainly, on this event. And so you're going to get a lot of opinions either way. But one thing is very clear. Anybody that was there absolutely had the time of their lives and realized just how much unity there is in the movement, in the love of the people. I think it was truly transformative if you were in the space, in the event.
Okay, so no one's buying that shit. They have, here's Ben Shapiro here.
As an event
Chrisley,
for people to celebrate after the 20. We can do debates about Israel. We can do debates about remembering the things that we're all fighting for.
And had, it was like the about Trump and kind of talked about how Charlie inspired him and ended the Saturday night. And then we had Faith Night. So we had, proclamation of the gospel.
Okay, so, they're bullshit there. So the first three comments, Charlie's enjoying peace in heaven with our Father, God, Jesus, our Lord. Not really, dearly missed. We miss you, Charlie. So these are, we miss you, Charlie. Not negative comments towards the twinks and, Erica. But then you get into it here. The new WWE, terrible. I've been talking about WWE now since Trump's fake assassination attempt. His fake assassination thing. Why are you still using Charlie's channel as personal platform? It's so weird. We come here to watch, to remember Charlie in his own world, his own words, not to watch you. And there are 5 replies, 100%. It's making it hard for me to really learn more about him when these guys keep uploading. I feel like he's being buried. 100%. This channel is a Catholic Church show. It's separate from TPUSGay. Exactly. Charlie Kirk is sadly no longer on Charlie Kirk show, so go figure. Not one of you is believable. They should make a toy figure of Mikey McCoy with his bottom lip quivering. Call in a New Awakening or wherever you want, but this is the Charlie Kirk show. Get off of his name. There's no fans. They have fucking 0 fans. There's not one peer person here where they could say, we really like you, Blake. Like the other guy, too. We like you guys, the twinks. First, missed Charlie so much. Mitch's son just confirmed he was at the base and received a phone call regarding him being there. Yeah, it's on your boy's Paramount Tactical Live today. The channel Andrew was texting live to give information on the wrong day. Laughing my ass off. You think you'd be doing anything you could do to figure out all the abnormalities surrounding the death of the guy whose name's on the building. Numbers are dropping at Turnabout. It will never be like Charlie had it. Keep on grifting, team. AmFest is a disgrace, dangerous indoctrination. You're all so fake. I'm going to continue to stay subscribed to Charlie's channel, but I just feel uneasy and where's it's gone since his passing. Be at peace, Charlie. Our enemies are losing, thanks to God. TPUS died with Charlie Kirk. TPUSGay. We are sad that TPUSGay did not do the Doge report on the company as per his last wish. They got a heart from somebody. One fucking heart. 110 LLC. I'm sure that's fucking something bad. Yep, you guys are real remembered by inviting Nicki Minaj and Ben Shapiro to your fireworks show. Two people that Charlie Kirk wasn't fond of. I met Grandma Jeannie at Target. Got a picture with her. I'm not sure what that means. Candace is so right about you fools. Crazy how the comments show that shows everyone hates you. Gotta wonder who's really showing up at these shows. Also, I am the only one who finds it unbelievably distasteful you still use Charlie Kirk ads. Yeah, that's weird. At the intro to your show. I don't know who is more of a joke, you guys or Donnie's attempts to play off the files. He should be here. Perhaps he is. Cringe Fest. Charlie Kirk was TPUS gay. Both are no more. Excellent job. Thanks, guys. One person here. One shackled up person. Do you recap the part where Erica calls TPUSA a grift or Nicki Minaj called JD Vance an assassin? Ha 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 ha. You guys are absolutely disgraced. Poor Charlie. The title of the video, Remembering Charlie Damfest, but Charlie did not personally like Ben Shapiro and likely would have never invited him. Also, Shapiro has publicly stated that he does not believe in Jesus Christ, that Jesus was a troublesome heretic, and the death of Jesus means absolutely nothing to him. Yet you had Ben on as your very first speaker, trashing Tucker and Candace, which are two people Charlie said he wanted to attend and speak at TPUSGay events. Charlie declared rap and hip-hop were a negative influence on society and culture, while specifically denouncing Nicki Minaj as a terrible influence for black females, yet she was invited to have a sit-down with Erica. It seems the title of your video should be Forgetting Charlie at AmFest. Kaboom. You guys are such frauds. The truth will be brought to light. It always does. What do you mean it always does? You know, on the spiritual level, but not on the material level. Yet, how can you guys carry the weight of such a deception that's got to be killing your souls deep down? All right, so this is all like the comments. You see all of them. One positive one. And we don't know if that's like some of these guys' moms or something, whether they're gay lovers or whatever. And so that's fucked, right? Okay, so I just got a few comments here. And like I said, this video is going to go up, Tuesday, and then Wednesday I'll post a short video and I'll post some of those prophecies I've been talking about from, the Whispers of the Brighter World. And so then I'll skip New Year's Day on Thursday and come back Friday morning. Okay, so mostly funny comments here, and then one comment that triggers some things more I want to say about an earlier video. Maybe after Dodgy leaves, it can get back to the old essence. So this person, Erica dates a gay dude to get on a reality TV show, then friend zones him. People are commenting that was a great title, and that is a great title. And I think I don't have any misspellings, which is a bonus. So this person's responding to my Saj Marg. This guy Dodgy took over and turned out to be a piece of shit. And so the problem with it is, after this happened, the third master system, Master Chargy, he was like CEO of a company, and he spoke multiple languages. He had traveled to Europe and other places from India, well-versed in other cultures. And he was just good at everything. And he was a perfectionist, and he micromanaged everything. And, I didn't love that part because, I wouldn't have been able to do what I do now. Like, there wasn't this idea that you could just go talk about Sajmarg the way I do here, back when Chargy was around. And, I thought that, I wasn't critical of him, but I was like, I that wasn't something I loved about what his time. But now I totally get it, because as soon as he stopped micromanaging everything, all these people, and many of them were, these people, his inner circle people, and this talk that many of the people who have watched some of my older videos, I've showed you this talk, and he just slams all these guys that were his inner circle people. A lot of these guys were rich people, came to America, made a lot of money, and they donated money to the mission, and they were, good. They weren't like, I knew some of them. I knew a lot of them. And some of them were better than others, right? There was one guy who was really good, but I don't think he had much of a voice. And that guy told me that when they all heard Chargy just slam them and talk about what pieces of shit they were, the next morning they went to breakfast and they were patting each other on the back, and like they didn't even, and he would say that they, whenever he would criticize them, they would say to themselves, oh, he's just performing, this is just a shit, he's not really meaning it. It's like total denial. But once he died, these guys all fucking, went after the parts of the mission. They all, they just, none of them followed any of the teachings or any of these things. And Daji encouraged it. And, there wasn't anybody who could have stood up to that. That was the problem, because the world's so corrupt and degraded. When the first master, Lalaji, died, he didn't have a following. He didn't have a successor. And he connected with this guy, Babaji, for 13 years. And then 13 years after Lalaji's death, it was announced that Babaji was his successor. And there's only 200 people, and only 5 of them accepted him. And the rest, some of them tried to will him to death with yogic powers. They tried to attack him psychically and steal his mastery. And so, this is what people are like. And when your organization gets big and there's assets available, you can't keep these fucking demons away from it. So this person's comment, let me read it again. So this person is saying, maybe after Daji leaves, it can get back to its old essence. And I was explaining some of the things with this. So the problem is Daji created this thing called heartfulness, which he owns outright, like his own thing. Like he's the president of the Sri Ramchandra Mission, with the method being called Sajmarg. But that is something where the master of the system just can't take all the properties and give them to his kids, right? Like something like that, right? So that was like, all the bylaws. But what he's done is to get around that is to create like a holding company. And he's trying to move all the assets into his, holding company. So like that's part of that thing. And so the issue is like, let's say another master was made. Like someone like the first 3 masters who were like impeccable character and completely devoted to God. Let's say there are people like that, but a lot of them are soft. They don't have the ability to, like there was Chargy was talking about when he became master. Like half the people were saying, oh, you have to be soft with these fucking pieces of shit that were like, causing problems. And other people like, oh, you got to come down hard on them. And he was told by Babaji before Babaji died, you have to bring discipline into the mission because people are just running amok and they're not, living spiritual lives and acting as spiritual people. And so this is what like all this kind of stuff is there. Everyone would have to accept this person, and most people won't because they all have trouble accepting the successors of the other masters. Like very few people like just completely accept the master. Most of them, don't get over the relationship with the previous master of the system. And this isn't unique to the Sajmarg, but this is, this is how people are. And so, and the bigger something grows, the more degraded it gets because, you get more and more dumb fucks that come in there. And so, yeah, there's there's not much hope of it getting better. At least, until things change, when people are desperate. And if the system can be salvaged psychically, where people just pick up on it without the organization, and people just start doing the meditation, like they'll have dreams about it, or they'll close their eyes and they'll hear, like, some sort of channeled interaction, and they'll get it like internally, like there won't be any outward organization. People all over the world will just learn how to do this practice without any, material connection to it. If that can happen, then sure. And that could happen, but right now it's not likely given what's happening in the world. Who would like Rabbi Shmuley? So I talked about in this video, Erica Kirk dates a gay dude. I talked about Ben Shapiro and Laura Loomer being unlikable. And someone said, what about Rabbi Shmuley? And that's another fucking guy, right? Ben Shapiro is loathsome, multiple smiley face emojis. That's a word that we don't hear, that we don't use near enough. I think I said loathsome because I was looking for words. But then I was thinking about this. I left some meat on the bone, right? Like I could have said some more things about, and we could add Rabbi Shmuley. He's probably the worst of the worst. But Ben Shapiro's like that one guy that like works at the motor vehicle department, like the DMV, and like everybody in that who's ever gone to that DMV, you go, that guy at the motor vehicles. I know that fucking guy, right? Right? He's some fucking pencil pushing person that's like some bean counter guy who's on the, like some person that you have to deal with at work, and who's working in accounting or working in human resources or something, and is really a stickler for rules, and and is just constantly correcting everybody and lecturing them, and detailed perfectionistic piece of shit with a weird voice that everybody fucking hates. And Laura Loomer is that like crazy woman that works that like maybe is related to the boss or something, or there's some way that she doesn't get fired but should, and like everybody around the water cooler, like I've never worked at a place like that, although I did deliver water coolers for Poland Springs years and years ago. But that's that's neither here nor there. But everyone's around the water cooler talking about that fucking Laura Loomer and how, like, what does she do now? And when she walks in the room, you could feel the anger and hatred for her and all this kind of stuff. I was making the point that why would you make these people your spokespersons? They're so fucking unlikable. And Rabbi Shmuley fits in that category, and so does Netanyahu, although he's a leader, but still, they're just not likable. And so, and there's plenty of likable Jewish people, TV personalities and whatever it is, right? Comedians and, whatever, just normal people. And so, like, a lot of them have, charisma and good, people I've known over the years. And they pulled out these fucking unlikable pieces of shit, right? That fucking guy, right? Like the guy at the motor vehicle department, everybody just knows. Like, you're like waiting in line to get, there's like 15 different people, they have their own little booths, and you're hoping, oh, don't let me get that guy, right? And so this person writes, Twink 1 and Twink 2, weren't they the sidekicks in the Dr. Zeus's book, The Shill on the Hill? I was talking about how I called them Twink 1 and Twink 2 at whatever that is. And then the person writes, to whom do you calleth master in your gratefulness prayers? So I thought this was kind of a good question. And this is kind of one of the unique things about Sajmark, because everybody has a master within. Everyone has a self, like with a capital S. You have a soul, and you have your version as your individual person who then surrenders to God and reach your full potential spiritually. Like everyone has a maximum spiritual ceiling, and someone who's mastered themselves, their lower tendencies, and just works for God, right? Just 100%, is merged back into the source. So, whatever divinity you have within you, there's a point where you reach this state where you're at your maximum capacity and you are completely one with the divinity within you. There's no separation between your ego and your soul and the divinity within you. And so that's what the master is called. And the people who are called to master, that's why this guy Kamish can't be called a master, but he clearly didn't reach that state. And so there is a person who has done that in the Sajmark system that you get to see and interact with and get to, ask questions of and whatever. Chargy would always answer emails, and I mean, it was amazing the amount of work he was able to do. Like, he'd get hundreds, if not thousands, of emails a day, and with all his other work, he would find time to answer them, and and all these things. But you would see what it was like and experience the essence, the inner essence, through this transmission that was given. But the ultimate goal was to achieve that. And in other, religious, spiritual movements, it's always about worshiping the guy. In Christianity, you're a worthless, sinning piece of shit, and Jesus is something different. In the Sajmark system, you're supposed to become what Jesus is, right? You're supposed to become the master, become what the master is. You're supposed to reach that level yourself. That's your goal. You're not worshiping the person. And so there's also this idea of the divine master, which is, like God, but also with some level of consciousness. Like, God doesn't have self-awareness, right? Doesn't have, so the master within, and then there's the person who's the master in the system. But, it's like the master as a, like I said, as a inner essence, like the Christ, like Jesus the Christ, right? It's like, the master within. This idea of the master, like somebody who, this condition that people can achieve, mastery, self-mastery, where a person can clearly be called the master of spirituality. Because people can master other fields of activity. You can become a master coach or a master player or master pianist or, whatever it might be. But, the spiritual one is the best one for obvious reasons. Anyways, let me wrap this one up here, and I'll continue on tomorrow and make a video for Wednesday, like I said, and that whole thing. The big announcements coming on Wednesday of what year of 2026 is going to be. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.